Alright, let's go over the ground rules here on gathering and boiling water. Okay, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to have two containers here, okay? We've got two different containers, and you want to use one to get your water from the creek and dump it in this one. Because, I mean, when I'm out camping and stuff, I don't usually go by that, especially when it comes to these waters, they're pretty clean. But in other scenarios, in jungles and, say, Florida, where I've been, you need to take that precaution because just a little bit is all it takes to get you sick. So you don't want to contaminate the rim of whatever you're going to be drinking out of. So I'll use this cup to gather my water to dump into here so this rim doesn't get touched with anything. So we want to gather that water. Water's coming this way, okay? So what I want to do is stick my cup in here so the water hits the back of the cup and doesn't push any particles into this cup here on me, because then it's just going to get all the floaters and stuff in there that I don't want. First thing we want to do, if we're going to get ourselves some water boiling, is obviously get a nice hot fire. Okay, this is all just good dry dead pine I'm throwing on here. If you want to get yourself a quick hot fire, this is the way to do it. This took me all 5 minutes to start. Just use some fat wood and the ferro rod, a little bit of leaves underneath it, keep it from the moisture on the ground. Dig yourself a little hole like this, you got a good hot fire going. Build up them coals, get them hot quick. So you want to build it up so you're not going to risk knocking your water over, because we're going to suspend this above the fire because your heat is actually, above these flames. It's not directly on top of the flames. So we want to actually have our bottle raised up. Now I have a third cup here. I showed you in one of my videos, the winter tea and edible video. I have a 3-part system where I stack my cups in. I have 3 total. So the one that I use to gather the water, I won't make my tea in. I'm going to put some white pine needles in that cup there you see, and then heat up this water over the fire right here on a suspension system. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just a very simple suspension system. Very, very simple. Okay, this is just something I do when I'm on the fly and just want to get it done quick. You just lay a simple little log like this on the ground. Okay, show you, my fire is right here. We're looking at, 2.5 feet from there. And then we'll take a little Y branch like this, and we're simply going to find a good soft spot in the ground here. We're going to wedge that in the ground. Okay. Okay, and what that does is just creates a trap for this branch here, where I will simply wedge that in there. Okay, see how I wedge that in there? And then this is going to come over here, over top of my fire. Alright, and that's going to let my bottle hang just above them flames, so the flames are licking it right in the bottom. Okay, and that's what we want. And what I'm also going to do, you can see I have my mouth spreader hooked on there, and that's just to get it on and off the fire, and it's good for hanging over the fire. I'm going to just take and make a little notch right here, probably right here, so this hangs right dead center in that fire like that. Okay, and I'll shoot that here in just a second. Okay, so we got this suspended just where we want it here. We can see that it can hold quite a bit of weight, enough to hold our water bottle, so I'm just going to kind of look over top of this here. You can see right here is a good spot, so what I'm going to do is just take my Maltop tool and just make a nice notch right there. Okay. All you need is just enough for it to grasp, so it doesn't fall, slide down, you end up losing all your water. So I'm up high now, and there's no water up here, so I wouldn't want to have to go back to where I just came from. Okay, so right there should do it. So then I'll put this away. I'm gonna grab this. I just made a little stick here. Okay, this is I just took the bark off because I don't want no bark falling in my water. Come over here to this. Reach in here, the top piece. Okay, you can see how I went through the top. Don't go here because you're gonna actually set this in that notch. So we come over here, bring this carefully through here, set that right in that notch we just made. Okay, and that's why you don't put the stick through this, because this is actually perfect for putting this stick in and grabbing a hold of it. So now my bottle is about, I don't know, 6 inches off the fire. Flames are licking the bottom of it, and I can get this heated up pretty quick. So now I want to talk about some other things real quick. Alright, well, this is boiling up here. Let's talk a little bit about what it takes to make water boil, because in Tennessee the elevations are a little higher. It's not so bad here because the highest elevation is around 6,000 feet. But what about higher elevations than that? When you get to like something like Mount Everest, that's just under 30,000 feet. And that elevation there take a lot longer to boil water. Okay, so the higher you go, you need to remember this, the higher you go, the longer it will take to boil that water. So doing something simple like just raising it above the fire a little bit, doing the things that creates more heat is going to help you get that boil quicker. Okay, the higher you go, you need to increase your time. It might take 5 minutes. Okay, let it roll for 5 minutes. Higher than that, 10 minutes. Okay, the most you ever need to boil water is 10 minutes to be absolutely safe and certain you killed everything. Now, generally, the rule of thumb is after 1 minute of a rolling boil, not just a few bubbles, your water's safe. But depending on the clarity of the water, you may need to boil it longer. Okay, so if you get some really dirty, muddy, nasty pond water, I'm sure you smelt that, it's better safe to just boil it for 5-10 minutes. Okay, water like this from the mountains in Tennessee, absolutely safe. You could probably drink it straight out of there in certain parts. I have done that and been fine. Don't recommend it, but I do it just to test different clarities of the water. But here, this water's pretty clear already. It comes straight from springs, so 1 minute of a boil, probably going to be just fine. But that dirtier water and stuff in places like Florida, a lot of animals around, a lot of critters all year long, it's best to just give it a nice 5 to 10 minute boil, just to be safe. The reason that you don't want to boil it any longer than 1 minute usually, is because then you're just wasting water. You're evaporating it into the air and not drinking it. But sometimes you have to weigh the options there. Is this water super dirty where I should just maybe boil it for 5 minutes instead of 1? So that's what I want to talk about there. Just remember, the higher the elevation, the longer it's going to take to boil that water. Anywhere down at sea level, 212 degrees. You go higher, boils at 185 degrees. Now this suspension system here is very basic, very simple, okay? It takes all of 2 seconds to make. Now later on down the road we'll go over different suspension systems that can actually, you can adjust it higher, lower, put it at different angles, and you could do that with this one if you wanted to, but just too much work. I just made it where this thing's going to sit right there. When I'm done with it, I pull it off. But there's ways to make these things differently, so you can actually adjust them to cook more food on. You could have a system where it'll spin off and come back on, or you could lower it and raise it. There's ways to do that, and that's nice for when you're camping for a longer period of time, staying out in the bush or whatever, and you want to just have a nice feast and cook, because I do a lot of that. Me and my buddies come out here and we'll just come out just to simply cook and have a good time. And that's something you should all do. Don't just do survival. Come out here and enjoy it. That's what it's all about, is enjoying this beauty out here. This is God's creation, and it's here for us to see, not just to be hidden. So come and enjoy it, do some camping. These are just little tips I like to make along the way. Okay, if you look in there, you can see I got a good solid rolling boil going. But as you can see, that is a rolling boil right there. So if I let that sit there for 1 minute and do that, I'm pretty confident that I'm going to have fresh drinkable water. Okay? So if this were murky, dirty pond water, then I might want to let it sit on there for 5, maybe 10 minutes, depending on the filthiness of that water. Stagnant water. This is running water. Remember that. It's coming from a spring. It's pretty clean as it is. So 1 minute, I'm pretty confident it's fine. Now that my water's ready to be used up, I simply just put my stick in like so, and that's a way for me to get this off the fire. Okay? That's why we put the bottom piece on top of the log and not the top, so we can just reach in like this and go ahead and grab it. Alright, I'm going to show you real quick how I pour this when it's hot like this. Try to do this so you can see it. Okay, I usually just lean my cup over something like this when it's hot like that. And I know I'm not getting that in there. Okay, try a different angle. Okay, I just simply lean this stick over here. Take my bottle like this, because right now I can't grab that. And I'll just slowly dump it in like that. Just got my needles already in there ready to be steeped. Just going with the straight pine needle tea today. Okay, and then it's ready. I don't have to burn my hand trying to grab this thing, because it's too hot right now. Okay, and there we have it. That's how we boil and disinfect water properly. You should use that in any situation. It's always best to just be safe. And that's how just a couple extra tips in there, you know, a simple suspension system and a way to pour this into this without burning yourself and trying to fight it if you don't have, like, say, a hot pad glove or anything like that. That's one way to get her done.